at this point. This is impacted by the mock-up and the designs. This is getting people in the door. Then next, we have what's called CR, which stands for conversion rate. Then we have average order value. Then we have ROAS. Each one of these represents the 3 steps in the funnel. How do we get traffic, people in the door? How do we get people to buy? Then how do we get them to buy more? So conversion rate is the percentage of people who land on our site and purchase. So if 100 people walk into our store, how many times does the register go cha-ching? And the reason that this matters is that we can have the best billboards in the world, and we do. We got less than $1 cost per clicks. If your cost per clicks are over $1, then go back to that lesson. And if you're not sure, then you can either ask ChatGPT, the WeScale GPT, or you can join the accelerator and ask us directly. We can have the best billboards in the world, but if nobody buys, then they're useless. Like imagine sending people off the highway in droves, and then we have like the registers broken. People can't buy. That would be a complete waste of money. And the other reason it matters is it's the bottleneck to average order value. So we're not able to increase the amount that people are buying, meaning getting them to go from 1 shirt to buying 2 shirts, twice as much money. That's exciting. But we're not able to get to that point and work on that until we have people buying in the first place. So hopefully you're seeing by this point, we just work one piece at a time. We get people in the door, then we get them to buy, then we try to get them to buy more. The biggest mistake people make here is they try to do all of them at the same time. So they end up making, like, they should be working, they just launched, they should be getting their cost per click down, but they install an app on their cart that's going to recommend products. We don't have people coming in the store. Why are we making any tweaks on the site? Which really just saying this to myself because that's exactly what I did. So the way we find it is by taking total orders divided by total sessions. So again, if 100 people came in, if 3 people bought, that's a 3% conversion rate. And we're going to cover all the different ways that we can improve that. Next up is average order value. This is AOV, so we're going to refer to it from now on. This is how many products are people buying. Are they buying 1 shirt? Are they buying 2, 3? So to keep using our store example, if in one day 10 people bought, and if we had 100 sessions and 10 people bought, that would be a 10% conversion rate. And in total, we made $500. So 10 sales to $500. That would be an AOV of $50. Easy math. The reason it matters is that it is substantially easier to get someone to buy more than it is to get somebody to buy at all. And the way you calculate this, one, it's in the Shopify dashboard, but just so you know the math behind it, you take total sales, like our revenue for the day, divided by number of orders. So we took $500 in sales, divided by 10, gives us 50. And the way you change this is more better products, free shipping incentives, frequently bought together, and product recommendations. We're going to go through all of those in a second. And then the final number that was in our beautiful emoji chart graphic. Emojis speak 1,000 words. It's great. The final one is ROAS. Notice that it's not a plus. It's not a variable. It is the output. It is just a math formula, meaning ROAS is return on ad spend. This is the main thing that we were shooting for. This is back to the chart where we saw $100 in, $300 out. That would be a 3 ROAS, 3x return on ad spend. So this is how much money we are making for every $1 spent. So if I spent $100 on billboards and made $200 in sales, it'd be a 2x ROAS. Note, this does not include cost of goods, overhead, or anything. This is just top line sales. And the reason that this matters is this gives us the overall picture of how optimized our funnel is. And the way we find it is by taking total sales divided by total ad spend. Now, how do you change it? 3 ways. It's the cost per click. We make this go down, meaning we're getting cheaper traffic. We increase the conversion rate, meaning for the same traffic, more people are buying, or we increase average order value, meaning same traffic, same number of purchases, we get them to buy more. If you're curious, all these acronyms are in the free cheat sheet that's linked down below this lesson. So first, we're going to take a look at conversion rate, which we're able to find by going to our store. So here we are in Sloth's dashboard. So in your dashboard, you can go from the home screen down to analytics. Then on the analytics dashboard, this is our hub. This is where we're able to see all the numbers we're talking about. And honestly, just like Facebook, it gives us a lot of extra stuff that we don't necessarily need to be focusing on. The only two things that I really look at on this screen are average order value and conversion rate. And for this time period, I'm looking at Sloth launched in January, but I want to have a little bit more data to go off of. Yeah, January, it had a 0.74 conversion rate. And average order value was $70, but I don't really count it because it was only 12 orders. So it's not statistically significant. Once we get up to about 100 orders, then it is. But for right now, this is where we're able to find conversion rate. And you're also able to reorder your dashboard so that the most important ones are towards the top. So we can pull up like conversion rate and average order value. Yeah, let's just move these up here. Beautiful. And then you could click save. I don't want to mess this up though, but we'll just leave it there. So conversion rate. And what you'll notice looking at conversion rate is that it shows one overall number, but it's actually broken up into three separate metrics. So it's add to cart, reach checkout, sessions converted. And we're going to cover what these mean in a second. And so what add to cart rate is telling us is out of all the people who went into the store, how many of them put something in their shopping cart? So using sloths as an example again, we can see this was in January. Let's look at January to February. Yeah, so sloths from January to February, we had a 5% add to cart rate, 5.28 to be specific. So that means out of all of these sessions, so we sent 3,500 link clicks and had 187 people add to cart. We're going to talk about like what we should be aiming for in a second. So if 100 people went into the store, it means 5 of them were adding something to their cart. Then reach checkout rate, the next metric, tells us how many people walked into the store, put something in their cart, and then made the long walk all the way down the aisle to the front of the store where the cash register is. That is the reach checkout rate. So on Sloths, we had out of 100 people, 5 of them were putting something in their cart. And then out of the ones who put something in their basket, roughly 3 of them were making it all the way through to checkout. And what that looks like on the store is I would land on this page as a customer and I click on the product that I want, then clicking add to cart. That's when I get added into that number. In fact, I just made that number go up for today. Then when I click this button here, checkout, that's me now adding to that number. So starting to make sense? He says, as if anybody can reply, talking to himself. So, and then the third and final number is sessions converted. This is also known as conversion rate or completed checkout. That's this last number here. So out of 100 people who came in the door, 5 of them added something to cart, 3 of them got all the way to checkout, and then only 1 of them, as of right now, 1.33%, are actually converting. What that looks like on the store is I add something to cart, click checkout, and then enter all my information here to complete the order. So the store example of this is these are people who added something to cart, got to the cash register, handed them their credit card, and completed the transaction. People do that on the checkout page. So the 3 pages, there's the collection page, the product page, and the checkout page. So here's what it looks like from the whole funnel. So we have the ad, then we have the product page, then the cart, and then checkout. And on mobile, it looks like this. So the collection page, this is where we drive all of the traffic to. The product page is once they land on that page. And the reason that we drive all the traffic to the collection page and not the product page is because we consider the source of the traffic, meaning people are coming from Facebook where they're in a scroll mindset. They're passively consuming content. If we just drop them right onto a product page, that would be like dropping them right into a article, which a lot of people think, well, if they clicked on one product, why wouldn't you just show them that? It's like, one, you can test it. Keep testing mindset. What's the downside? Just whatever the ad spend is. You can always turn it off after a day or two. But we have tested this again and again, ad nauseum. Collection page converts better. My theory on it is because people are scrolling, and when we drop them on a collection page, they're able to continue that passive browsing experience. So it feels congruent with what they were just doing. We're meeting the market where they are in all regards. Then on the product page, This is really where they are considering if they want to add to cart or not. So this is where we load up the details, the social proof, all that kind of stuff. And then the cart page, talk about later, and then checkout. So I want to ask you this before, and this frame would have helped me, would have saved me so many nights of just randomly hitting buttons and hoping that it would change things on the site. Think about it like a store. You already know this. You've been in stores before. Which step do you think has the biggest drop off? We kind of just saw an example of it, so it's not a trick question. Think about it like this. How many times have you walked into a store and not picked up a single product? Probably, pretty decent amount. Well, now think about how many times have you walked into a store, put a product in it, and then put it back and left. Decided for whatever reason you didn't want to walk to the cash register. You're like, I'm done. So that would be our drop off from add to cart. That is what's happening when we have people who add to cart but don't reach the checkout. And finally, how many times have you ever added something to your cart, picked up a product off the shelf, gone all the way to the checkout? You walked a long aisle back to the front of the store with the products in hand. And then when you're at the cashier, they're looking you dead in the eyes. You just drop everything. You refuse to give them your card. You put down the products and leave. Like probably the least likely out of all of them. So the frame for this is it basically tells us our priority, that it's common for a lot of people to walk in and just look around and not leave, but it's way less likely for them to add something to their cart and then for whatever reason just put it back. Then it's even less likely that they add something to their cart, get all the way to checkout, and then they don't convert. So this basically tells us our priorities. We first want to optimize the add to cart rate, which is the biggest drop off. Then we optimize reach checkout and then sessions converted. But here's the thing. There's one difference that I didn't mention earlier. In those examples, you obviously meant to go into the store. It's very rare that you would just like stumble into like a strip shopping center and just walk into a store randomly. Like you had a plan. You had something in mind that you wanted to buy. Otherwise, you wouldn't have gone in there in the first place. That's why out of that example, you're like, maybe done these things. But think instead, you're driving down a highway, just on your way, going about your day. Maybe you're going to a supermarket. Then as you're driving there, you see this really great billboard with something that you really want. You're like, oh, that looks interesting. That seems like it's me. So on a whim, again, busy day, got lots going on. But on a whim, you're like, that looks like me, or, oh, I could buy that for somebody. You decide to pull off the highway into the store to find that product. So what's the difference between those two stores? The difference is a planned versus impulse visit. So a planned store is branded with lots of objects and stuff around. Think of like the big box stores where we know people are coming in to shop. We know that they're coming in for our products. Opposed to the impulse store, they would keep things extremely simple because they know that you are in a rush. They know that you are a impulse buyer. And that's what the impulse store knows. That you aren't that sure about being there. You never heard of this company before. You just saw the product, caught your eye. So they want to make your life easy. They don't try to convince themselves that they are a big branded store. Instead, they meet you where you are. So what they do, they just simply lay out the products you're looking for, a few others that are related, and they shorten the aisle as much as possible. So there's no distracting objects, no widgets or things possibly distracting you. And they keep the process as clean and easy as possible. So that's exactly what we're doing with our stores. So cost per click, conversion rate, average order value, and ROAS. First one that we're fixing is the add to cart rate. Looking at your add to cart rate, whatever metrics you have over the past 30 days, whenever you started running ads, you're going to come to the analytics dashboard. And this is how we diagnose what changes we should make. So you're going to look at, say you launched at the beginning of January, just look at the whole date range. And then you come down here to conversion rate breakdown. You're going to click this and open it up. And then down here, it's an important little filter. Want to make sure that we turn off bot sessions. Bots is one of the ways that Meta makes sure that advertisers, basically to protect their users, and they will look at your site and see if you are, basically they check out your site, make sure you're doing everything by the books. Long story short, we only look at the human sessions. Now what we're looking at is a day-by-day breakdown of the add to cart rate. We don't really care about the day-by-day breakdown. I just care about the information we have up here. I care about the whole because right now we haven't driven a ton of traffic, probably a couple hundred sessions, maybe a few thousand. And what we're looking for here is starting with the add to cart rate. And just by following this step by step, like procedural thinking, you are head and shoulders above most people who just look at this and their eyes glaze over and they go back about their day. Instead, we focus on the add to cart and we know that our target is 6 to 8%. How do we know that? Industry benchmarks. Magical thing basically tells us this is what we can reasonably shoot for. So at 6 to 8%, meaning 100 people come in the door, trying to get 6 or 8 of them to pick up a product. So then the question is, where is your add to cart rate right now? So if your add to cart rate is low, say 2, 3, 4%, we want to get that up before we focus on anything else. Just like we started with cost per click, we're now in conversion rate, and conversion rate has add to cart, reach checkout, sessions converted. Not even talking about average order value or anything else. We're just going step by step. So add to cart rate. So say your add to cart rate is 3%. What do we do about that? Well, there's only 2 pages that we look at. The 2 pages we optimize are the collection page and the product page. Now, I'm going to run through a list of things that you can keep in mind when looking at your page to see if any of these apply to you. Because conversion rate optimization, it is not a silver bullet. It is a million golden BBs. It is a lot of little teeny tiny tweaks that ultimately add up to a high converting store. And it's not a perfect science that, like, you're probably getting by now. None of like running a business really is, but here are the things that we can look out for. And then there's a full conversion rate optimization checklist linked down below that will walk you through add to cart rate, reach checkout, sessions converted, tweaks you can make. But some of the main ones to keep in mind is first, we want to be looking at it on mobile. 80+% of our traffic is going to come from mobile. So start with this. So if we have a 3% add to cart rate, we know that people are landing on this page and either not finding a product that they like, not liking something about the page, or there's something happening on the product page that is making them not hit add to cart. So because of that, in a beautiful way, we're able to rule out that it's nothing to do with this and it's nothing to do with this, because that would happen after somebody's already added to cart. And it's also not the homepage. I see a lot of people when they start out, they say, I'm not getting conversion. I'm not getting people buying on the site. So I updated my homepage banner. Nobody's landing on your homepage banner. Where does our traffic go? It goes to the collection page. Where do they go after that? They go to the product page. So if you have a low add to cart rate, you fix those 2 pages. Those are the only 2 pages that make the number go up. So on your catalog page, a bunch of things to consider. Number 1, start with the mobile view. And you want the announcement bar at the top to be your free shipping offer. Repeat before you iterate. Just start with free shipping. Just make it $75 plus or something that requires people to add 3 products to your cart. Next thing is the size of the logo. And Bill My Pod has taken care of a lot of this for us, but just things to keep in mind is if you upload a logo that is a super large size, meaning it's got extra white space up here and down here, then that will push down this announcement bar or this menu really far. And you want to keep in mind that people are looking at this on their phones. So there's a concept called above the fold. It comes from newspapers. Like the prime spot on the newspaper was what would be above the fold when it was delivered. It's like this real estate that the most people see. Same thing applies to mobile device optimization and just website optimization, meaning we want to hyperfixate on giving people a great experience above the fold. So what would be a bad experience is if when I click to your site, down to here is all just like menu bar. And I've literally seen this on people's sites before. They have such a large logo that they have to scroll before they actually see any products. We don't want that. We are an impulse store. We want to make it as clean and seamless of a buying process as possible. So keep everything as compressed and minimal as we possibly can. Next, we have our products, this is the name of the collection. I'm actually going to change this right now. So I want this to be, oh, there we go. Oh, we do have this. Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah. So this should be the collection that every ounce of traffic is going to. There we go. Then we have the collection description. You want this to be super sleek, minimal, and something that is building trust with the customer. Bonus points if you do something along the same lines or building off of your link description. So examples here would be 30-day money back guarantee, number of products you've sold, like on Sloth. See how we have 25,000 customers, 30-day happiness guarantee. I personally, especially for your first store, like when we're optimizing, just go everything by the book. Just do one. So I would do 30-day happiness guarantee or like number of customers, which is probably only a handful right now. Then going further down the page, we have the card section. And again, Bill My Pod took care of a lot of this for us, but we want to make sure that basically nothing clogging up the works, meaning we don't have product titles that are super long. They should be 2 to 3 words max plus the word t-shirt. We don't want to have like the currency code sometimes is turned on by default, and then that pushes down the product or the product price. So it takes up 2 lines. We don't want that either. And we don't want an infinite scroll that hurts conversions. We want people to be able to see the pages here. And the good part about the collection page is that by having a really great mockup, like we took the time to create and then, test, it really does a lot of the selling for us on the collection page. As you can see, like 90% of it is just taken up by the mockups, which is us leaning into being an impulse buy store. We know people came in to see the products, so let's show them the damn products. Let's make their lives easy. And then we move on to the product page. The product page is where above the fold matters a ton because a lot of default Shopify themes, they just have like extra. Let's look at seasonal collections. Yeah. So see the difference between this page. So giant title pushes everything down. And then size chart is on its own line, which then pushes this even further down compared to this page, where even with the theme editor thing, which is only there because it's my store. Well, this is my store too. I'm just not logged into it. See how everything that the customer would need to see is as close to the top as possible, opposed to here, they literally have to scroll. These are the minor details that make all the difference when we're optimizing our conversion rate. And again, Build My Pod takes care of almost all of this for us. I'm just pointing it out so that you are armed with the tools so you can make decisions for yourself rather than just relying on a theme to do the heavy lifting. The design this one. So in the setup that you basically followed what Meg was showing, you set up the color swatches. Compared to this, take a look at this. So we have color swatches, which makes it super easy for people to see which color they want to go with. And as a side note, like another improvement that was made on Build My Pod is notice how when you scroll down, you click a color, it yanks you back up to the top. It's kind of a clunky experience. Opposed to on the Build My Pod theme, you can scroll down, click light blue, and it stays right where it is. So it doesn't jerk you around. And the best part is that the color buttons are so close to the top that they don't even have to scroll, which it's these like minor details that I could geek out on all night long, but these are the details that matter the most. And then we have our size guide off to the right opposed to up here. And then the colors take up a lot less space. Just overall, a much cleaner experience. And then the add to cart button. So it is a different color than is visible anywhere else on the site. And so it should be black, red, green. Pick one of those 3. Ask ChatGPT for the ideal hex codes and make sure you're using that. And make sure that the text is all caps. And then below that, we have something that adds, think of this like the link description in our ads, but for the add to cart rate button or the add to cart button. So we don't have any of that here. This just looks so bland. And this was a really good theme. And this is like a default theme that, most people start with. The theme you have has honestly everything built into it. But then we have these, the link description basically for the add to cart button is just building trust before somebody's considering clicking. So I recommend having like 5 stars, like 30-day money back guarantee or free returns, and eventually the number of sales that you have. Like you can see on Sloth, 50,000 plus Sloth hiking club tees sold. That looks great. If I'm somebody who's considering buying, but I'm not really sure, then at the last second, I see this. Like that's something that might push me over the edge to actually click add to cart. So now going down further, we then have the trust seals or the icons that we created custom ones so it's nice and branded. Good things to have here is we don't want them to be overwhelming. We don't want them to be bright and like obnoxious. I think the way Sloth does it is like the most colorful way that you can do it while it's still like tasteful, like this. And then we have the drop downs here for description, premium everyday comfort, and then often bought together. So on this page, instead of this is a minor tweak that we can make so that it's more branded. Go to our products. Well, we go to online store and then edit theme and then go to products. And then inside the theme, you're able to. So I want to make this slightly more branded. So let's see what icons we have here. So instead of it just saying like frequently bought together, we're going to add a little branded flair by saying golfers also loved, and then add a emoji, golf. And then we can make it even more branded by addressing them as our avatar of slicers. Also loved. Now let's keep scrolling down the page. Then here, let's look at it on mobile. Then here we have our branded section block, which is telling them basically like a few selling points about the brand. So then I personally like injecting a nice little emoji wherever I can. And then another principle to keep in mind when optimizing your site is less text, the better. Nobody likes reading a wall of text. And then down here, we have our customers also loved. So let's make this a little bit more branded. We don't have to go overboard with it, but instead of customers also love, like something like there we go, our hole-in-ones, like our best sellers. Then we have FAQs down here. But in general, the best practices that we're following is simple, make it easy for them to choose the product that they want. Like all the options are at the top of the fold, and that pretty much covers the add to cart rate. So if you are still having any issues with this, then I recommend after like making the changes and evaluating and the like everything we just went through on your own store, if you're still looking at a 3%, then go through the full conversion rate optimization checklist. Then next, after we've dialed in the add to cart rate, then we focus on reach checkout rate. And the target here is 5 to 6%. And there's only one thing that we look at, and that's the cart drawer. So the cart drawer, and we don't even have to look at the full cart page, is again looking at it on mobile. When somebody adds to cart, we're basically asking the question of why would they not have clicked this checkout button. So the beauty of it is that the number of variables that could impact something lessens over time. Like if you picture the cost per click, how many decisions did you make to get that cost per click where it is? You chose the niche, you chose the mockup, tested a bunch of mockups, you made a bunch of designs, you had the ad copy, the headline, all of that. Then add to cart rate, there was 2 pages, bunch of little tweaks on them, but a lot less than for getting the cost per click down. Then on reach checkout, it's even less. And then the final page, it's like barely anything we can do. So it gets easier and easier. So we're basically asking the question of why would somebody not, add to cart here, or why would somebody not click the checkout button here? Very few things that we could do to tweak this, but there's a lot of things we can do to make this just a bad experience. So you basically want to keep it the way that it's set up here because this follows all the best practices. It has the checkout button is the same exact color and like design as the add to cart rate. So it keeps consistency throughout the whole experience. And then it has the free shipping threshold bar up here, which is encouraging people to get to $75. But we don't have a ton of recommended products. We don't have like a order guarantee, anything like that. We just have like the bare minimum because we don't need to distract people from clicking the checkout button. You'll notice on Sloth, for example, what we have here in our theme is called the cart drawer. What we have on Sloth is called like the popover. And you can use either one. I personally prefer the cart drawer. I found this converts better. This is what the majority of people do in the community, but I mean, Sloth is certainly not hurting. So, and also you'll notice there's some things that are slightly different on this theme compared to what Sloth has. like slightly larger text here. We have these reviews at the top, which don't worry about customer reviews. They will come over time. Like these icons, they're like very colorful and animated. Or not animated, but they have some life to them. Here we just went with monocolor. I recommend keeping them clean and sleek. You don't have to use the emblem style like this. You can do something more branded. And then we have a couple of different blocks about like the branding and the community behind it. And then we have customer reviews down at the bottom. So customer reviews will come. The main changes right now that you might notice is like the minor details, like the size of the circle around the color swatch, or like the size chart has a slightly different icon than this one, or the buttons here are slightly more rounded than the ones we have here. By and large, it's main reason I'm highlighting this is to show that there are lots of different ways that you can get to a good conversion rate. Like if you look at Lululemon or Viore or any like big apparel brands, actually those are all yoga brands, but you can see that there's a million different ways to optimize the site. Then finally is sessions converted, the third and final number, which the target here is 2.5 to 3%. It's possible to go much higher than that. Like on, let's see what Sloth got up to. Like what's it at past 30 days? Yeah, we're at 2.44%. Yeah, add to cart rate to reach checkout is kind of low. We should probably switch the cart drawer. But let's see. Let's go to our other brand. Last 30 days, conversion rate breakdown, human only. Yeah, we're at a 3.78. So it's possible to go much higher. Now, this is also partially because we're in holiday season, so things pick up a little bit. But we had some days where we got 4.7, 5.5, 3.6, 5, 5. So it's possible to string together days of it being over, but the average that we're shooting for is about 2.5 to 3%. And so for that, there's only one page that we're looking at, and that is the checkout page. So the checkout page is when they click add to cart, they get to checkout, and then enter their information here. The only two things that you need to change here is number one, make sure you're on 3-step checkout, which we have by default. So you go here, check out customer accounts. Now for the logo, we want to make sure we swap out the logo there. There we go. Slice Club. I like to center it. Then don't worry about doing a background image or anything. Just come down here. There we go. 3-page checkout. And then for the button colors here, we want to use the same color that we used for the add to cart and checkout button. And then for accents, which is these little blue icons here, I just go with a gray, something where it turns the check mark into a white. And there we go. This is a optimized checkout page. It's got the same button color. It's got the logo at the top, not too large, centered. And we made the accent colors not stand out nearly as much. And we switched it to 3-page checkout. Now, the final thing here is to make sure that you set up the shipping settings the same way that Meg showed, meaning we're not charging people exorbitant rates. We're just charging them the flat rate $487 or free for anybody who gets over 75. Now we've dialed in the conversion rate, going from add to cart, reach checkout, sessions converted. And you should just keep fixing those again and again until you notice things go up. Like you should just focus on one thing at a time. Do not keep just trucking along through this until you fix that number. And anytime I make a change, I will normally give it about at least 1 to 2 days before like deciding if it was a winner or not. The fastest way to optimize your conversion rate is to simply look at an example of a top performing store, one that you know is converting well. Like, here's a list of them. House of Chingasos. This one. Life is good. Into the AM. I didn't even type that in. They're running. They're running those sneaky dogs. They're running ads against Life is Good. I was going to say into the AM too, but life is good. There we go. This is another good store. Into the AM and Busted Tees. These are some good ones to reference if you're ever looking for inspiration. Again, just super, super simple. They don't even have color options, but this shows that there's lots of different ways to optimize it. And out of everybody in the mastermind, meaning all the sellers who are at like 50K plus in sales, looking at their sites, they all follow like the same best practices, but they all look slightly different. Like you're following your brand and it's going to evolve over time. That's the whole goal. So now we're going to fix AOV. And the fastest way to fix AOV, it's the simplest out of cost per click, conversion rate, average order value. It's the easiest to increase because the only thing that we really need to do, two things. One, have free shipping. So we need an incentive for people to buy more. And two, we need a reason that we need products that people would actually want to buy together. So in the beginning, it's very normal to have an average order value of like around $30 to $35, meaning people are just buying one shirt. But over time, as we're iterating, we're finding more winners that are based off of that bestseller. Our collection starts to take a cohesive form, meaning like when we first launched Yoga Stay, for example, all of our designs were like just like basically graphics of yoga mats and stuff like that. And then we had a design that was more whimsical and it was based on like positivity and mindfulness. And that took off. Took off as in it started getting really cheap clicks. Then it started getting conversions on the site after we made these changes. But the problem was people are only buying that shirt because everything else was unrelated to that. So picture Sloth if they had one like funny hiking based design, then everything else was things like this, where it's not funny, not typography. Somebody who comes into the store looking for this kind of design, they want to see other stuff like that. And so it's no coincidence at all that the majority of the top sellers are all in the same vein. They are humorous, plays on like relatable jokes about hiking and not really wanting to be hiking in the first place. So the fastest way to increase the average order value, and again, if you've gotten to this point, you should already have less than $1 cost per click. Your conversion rate should be heading in the direction of 2.5 to 3%. And then you focus on the average order value. And the way you increase that is by increasing or setting up free shipping threshold and having it in the announcement bar, and then just having lots of related products. And so it's just very simply looking at your top seller that's normally driving the majority of the traffic. And it's a normal pattern to have one design that shoots to the top and like nothing else is getting sales. It almost always happens this way. We'll be testing and testing and testing. And then finally one design will start really catching fire. And that becomes all the sales. And then the whole game is then how quickly can we catch up to that? How quickly can we make other designs that, support it? So make more designs that if it's a humorous person, somebody who likes comedy who's coming to your site in your niche, then make more designs like that. If it's more graphical, like whimsical designs, then and that's what's working for you, then lean into that. Like your brand is going to start to take its own life and you're going to start to deviate further and further away from the mean that we're looking for. So like on Slice, for example, that's why we start off with such a wide variety to give us the best shot at finding some winners. But then if, say Bad Lie is the winner, well, I'm going to stop doing things like 19th Hole Legend. That's a different art style entirely. Or 4, that's like more of an artistic spin. If somebody lands on the site expecting to see like more of this kind of dark humor about golfing, and then they see just like artistic representations of, I don't even know what this is, but they're not going to buy. Well, they might buy this one, but you're never going to have an average order value above 35. Opposed to, and that's just using that as an example. If this is the winner, then I would fill the store with whatever you would call this. So then there's lots of things for that person to buy. So I think we've covered that. And there's 2 tools to help you at this stage. First, we have the WeScale calculator, which you basically just drop in. You should learn how to do this yourself, but the way that this helps you is you just drop in your metrics and it's linked down below. And then it will spit out what you should be working on. Then second is the WeScale GPT. You can just take a screenshot of your collection page, product page, and upload it and ask it for ideas of what you should optimize. But the diagnostic framework here, bringing this all together, is If cost per click is less than $1, but conversion rate is low, means we have a store problem. It's nothing with the ads. You don't look at the ads. You know if they're doing their job. You look at the store. And then you diagnose, is it add to cart, reach checkout, or sessions converted? I'm going to say that again. If your conversion rate is low, the first step, you don't do anything else. You don't pass go, don't collect $200. We're trying to. You look at add to cart, and if add to cart is less than 6%, you focus on the collection page and the product page. If add to cart is higher than that, then you look at reach checkout. And if reach checkout is lower than 4 to 6% or 5 to 6%, then you focus on reach checkout. And then if add to cart rate, and you make tweaks until that number goes up. You make some changes, you wait a couple days, see if it goes up, and then you move on to the next. And then once reach checkout is done, then you move on to session converted. And if people are adding to cart, they're reaching checkout, but they're not converting, then you know that your problem is on that last page. So why the heck would we make tweaks anywhere else besides where this is our ability to have eyes and ears inside the store? So many people ignore this. They make changes like randomly. It's just start with the number that needs improving and move from there. And then once cost per click is under $1 and conversion rate is good, but AOV is low, then first consider your pricing. As long as you follow like $30 to $35, you should be in a good spot. But if you have it at 30 to 35 and it's still low, then it's probably the free shipping threshold is not set up. You don't have designs that are related to each other, so there's not more than one that they would want to buy. And then finally, if you have high cost per clicks, you shouldn't have even been here in the first place. You shouldn't be looking at the store. You should be focusing on design testing until that comes down. And so the green light criteria is that all three of these must be true. Cost per click consistently under $1, conversion rate above 2.5%, and average order value above, that should say 45. Those are the three things we focus on. Because once you have that, your ROAS should be above 2.0 because it's just math. ROAS is not an actual metric. It's just an equation. It's the cost of the traffic, how many people converted, then how much they bought. So now we're going to do a practice problem. I love these. So I want us to identify the number one opportunity based on these metrics. So take store A, for example. This is practicing everything we just learned. They have 78-cent cost per clicks. Conversion rate is 1.8. Average order value is 42. So think, what should they focus on? And keep that in your mind. Now we're going to look at another one. We have 65-cent cost per clicks, 3.1% conversion rate, $28 average order value. And one final example. Store C, $1.25 cost per clicks, 2.9% conversion rate, $45 AOV. What should each store owner, what should they focus on first? So store A, what should they focus on? Store B, store C. And an easy way to remember this is the order of operations, like PEMDAS from back in school. Like you first, like in solving a math problem, you first focus on the parentheses, then exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Yes, I did have to chat GPT because I couldn't remember the full acronym, but we all, hopefully we all remember what we're talking about. We have a order of operations for the way that we optimize our stores. So keep that in mind. Now the solutions, store A should fix the conversion rate because we got good cost per clicks. Average order value could come up first, but we want to focus on the conversion rate before we do that. Then store B should fix the average order value. It's got great cost of traffic, great conversion rate, but people are only buying one shirt. So what should they be doing? Looking at their free shipping, which that's like very straightforward. It's just the average order value has like three things we can change. It's just free shipping, add more designs that are like the ones that people are buying, and make sure that your shipping settings are not messed up, because Printify shipping settings, it leads to really low average order values because it's a reasonable rate for one product, but it gets exorbitant as soon as it's 2 or 3. It's like they charge, this is what they upload into your account that we changed. They charge like $4.77 for one product. Then it shoots up to like $7.15 or $7.30 for 2, and then something crazy beyond there. So shipping settings applies to average order value as well. Now for store C, they need to fix their cost per click because their average order value is fine. Their conversion rate is fine. They are just getting way too expensive cost for traffic. So the way we should be looking at these is always look first, what's the cost per click? And if this is anything over $1, we don't move on to the store. We focus on this. And even once we've gotten to this point. There'll be times like where it goes up and down and up and down. Like once we have enough winning designs, it starts to level out and we bring consistency to the account. And then once we've identified that cost per click is good, then we look at conversion rate and we don't look at anything else until that is dialed in. And then once conversion rate is good, then we look at average order value. And an important piece to keep in mind that we are doing all of this in addition to 7 new designs per day. That never stops. There should never be a time period where we are not adding more designs. So now we're just going to keep on tweaking and making changes until the rates start to go up. And what most people get wrong here, or more specifically, what I got wrong here, is I started adding a bunch of apps. I did not have the logical flow that you just went through that really just simplifies everything. And it tells us like, oh, I just need to fix that specific page. And I started adding different product types. And in fact, it's just none of those things. So what we are doing is we are optimizing a funnel. And we are able to spot leaks with just a small amount of water. This is particularly relevant to you if you're asking the question, do I need to increase my budgets? I never increase the budgets until we are over a 2 ROAS, because you don't need to. Because just like a funnel, you're able to, just a tiny like trickle of water, you can see where the leaks are. So a non-optimized funnel looks like this. Water's going in, but we're just losing people. And what we want to do when we're doing our job well is we, being the experimental scientists we are, testing mindset, we look at the funnel and we identify the leaks. Then we start at the top and work our way down the funnel. Then everything's good. But most people don't do that. They just focus on one area. Maybe it's the area they like the most. Maybe it's the area that they feel the most comfortable with. I don't know. I'm here to tell you from personal experience, being the guy behind the welding mask there. There might be a technical term for it. I don't know. Welding mask. I loved doing the ads. For whatever reason, maybe it's because I felt like I was the closest to getting sales when I was working in the ad account, because there's always a chance of a purchase popping up. I don't know. Fact remains that when I was running my first stores, I would just focus on the ads and I would completely ignore everything down here. I didn't know how to tweak the site. So I ended up just trying to sledgehammer, fix the whole store by only looking at the ads. But now we know you're not going to be able to get sales if we're only getting the traffic off the highway. That's a great accomplishment, but we don't want to just keep sending new billboards to the billboard company, like media buying essentially, if we're not going to be converting people. So we want to focus on what the business actually needs so that we're not hemorrhaging money or water, however you want to look at it. And keep in mind through all of this, design volume equals sales volume. At the very least, it equals the sales ceiling. And we've studied this with people that are in the scale cohort who have done over 10K in sales, people in the mastermind who've done 50K plus in sales. The number one correlation between any kind of input and success, aside from being objective and having a solid mindset and judging yourself off the inputs, not the outputs, is volume of designs. And so you just keep repeating these cycles, Thursday to Sunday, turn off on Sunday, review data on Monday. So now on Monday, we're looking at which designs perform best, keeping that design flow going. And then we're looking at the store, add to cart rate, reach checkout, sessions converted, and average order value. And then we make any necessary changes. And you can use the WeScale calculator if you're unsure how to identify the right area. And eventually, we keep running this until our ROAS on Facebook is above a 2. And now this will go up and down. It's very normal to have a day where you get 2 sales, 3 sales, and then none. It's very normal. You gain stability through scale. The consistent, profitable back-to-back-to-back days and months and then years comes from volume. But at this stage, we are just looking for 2 back-to-back days of a 2.0 plus ROAS. And I want you to stay here and keep tweaking again and again. And if you get stuck here and you ever catch yourself just mad at the world, mad at Zuckerberg, which I totally get, feeling like, this is you with your business and you have an idea that, oh, I want to grow this business. Let's do it. And you're like, I could use Meta for that. And then if it ever feels like you're just going to Meta saying, hey, I want to do this, here's my money. And then Meta goes, great, thanks. Lights it on fire. Says, that's it. That's all we got. If it ever feels like you were just handing money to Meta and lighting it on fire, it means that you have strayed away from the mechanic, the testing mindset. It is just data that we are getting back. And then no matter what the data says, whether if it's high cost per clicks, low cost per clicks, high conversion rate, low conversion rate, there is always something to be learned from that. There is always an action we can take. It's just a matter of learning the skills to know what action to take. So rewatch this lesson back, learn it again and again. Like the principles we covered here is from 8, 9 years of doing this, working with thousands of students, and it works. Not a financial guarantee of any kind, but it's the mundane, the non glorious activities that ultimately result in the outcomes that we're shooting for. So it should never feel like this. And if it ever does, you can post a case study in the community to get feedback from one of our coaches and everybody else who's in the community. It's a awesome group talking about the paid community, the accelerator. This is not a pitch. You do not have to do this. You're more than welcome to keep doing the process alone. But all that I can say is from personal experience, my results before I joined any kind of community were flatlined because I was growing at the rate of one. As soon as I joined a community and was surrounded by like-minded individuals who were all striving towards the same goal, most importantly, sharing openly and supporting each other and celebrating each other's wins, that's when everything changed for me. Now, that is not a financial guarantee of any kind. Your results will vary, but that is why we have a community and not some random, high ticket course or something like that. We are here to get people results. And so I can promise you that you will either join and get 10 times the value of what you paid, or you will get your money back. Absolutely guaranteed. So pause here, rinse and repeat until you have 2 back-to-back days of a 2.0 plus ROAS. And keep in mind, the fastest way to progress through this point is to make better designs. Having a great best-selling design that everybody wants is the great equalizer. It is the way to spike conversion rate, increase average order value, plummet cost per clicks. Because if you have a product in your cart that you're like, there's like gradations of products that people want. Something that's kind of lukewarm. They're like, I like it. I could take it or leave it. That person gets into your store. They're looking for any reason not to buy. Like they're on high alert. They're not that convinced. So you're going to have a much lower conversion rate, even with a fantastic site. Opposed to you have a product that is incredible. It speaks to them on a personal level. It is funny. It is sentimental. It expresses like the ethos of your niche, of your brand, like your tribe of people. That is the kind of design that when somebody has it in their cart, they're like, oh, I need this. This is so me. They're imagining the reactions from their friends, their family members, all of that. Conversion rate, I've seen conversion rates double overnight with one new design like that added. So through everything we just talked about, never lose sight of the fact that designs are the path forward. You are one design away from starting to see the results that you were looking for. If you're watching at this point, it means you have a 2+ ROAS for at least 2 days in a row. And that is one of the biggest milestones in the entire course. That is dialing in the first portion of the customer finance acquisition we are building towards. It's one of the biggest milestones in the entire course. Now, at this point, you're going to leave your catalog ad running every day of the week. We're no longer doing Thursday to Sunday. We're going to build upon it from there. Because what you have by now is likely about 150, 250 designs. I've seen 350, 400. Don't compare yourself to this at all. It's all relative. But you should now be getting sales pretty consistently. But we obviously want to ramp things up dramatically from where they are. And it might feel incremental right now. And that is entirely because we are still building our machine. We still have to do the second half of it. The last piece that we have to add is a nozzle to the end of the machine that amps things up, takes it to a whole nother level. So instead of putting in $1 and getting 2 back like we're aiming for right now, we're now getting $3 to $4 back, which that's an additional $1 to $2 of profit. And that's what we're covering in the next section. And we're going to be using the exact email templates, the decision-making frameworks that we used on Sloth and all of our other brands. So let's freaking scale this thing. And now we get to the part where things get really exciting, scaling. And before we get into that, let's address the elephant in the room. I know this is quite the look. No, I did not just get out of woodshop class. If you want to wear the look, just head over to Amazon. These are like 15 bucks. Looks super cool. But no, it's late at night, but we are getting it done. So first off, we're taking a look here at basically what's ahead. And it's a really simple roadmap, but there are a lot of nuances to it. And that's why this is personally one of my most, like my favorite lessons to talk about, because this is where the devil's in the details. But once we dial those in, it's where we really start to reap the benefits of everything that we've done in a huge way. So the first milestone that we crossed of reaching a 2.0 ROAS is huge. Like in the grand scheme of things, I would say that's at least half the battle, if not more. But I don't want to downplay what's coming next because if you think about how many variables you isolated in order to get here, like cost per click, the mockup designs, conversion rate, add to cart rate, reach checkout, sessions converted, average order value. And even if you might not feel like you have a full grasp of those concepts just yet, like nobody feels like they have things completely dialed in. Like we still have giant spikes and dips and spikes and dips in sales, and we want to bring consistency. And that's where we're going to get to. Because now we are talking about now that we're at the point of putting in 100, maybe $1,000, getting roughly 2,000 back. Now we're talking about how do we scale it up so that we are increasing profitability while we're increasing volume. And we really get that flywheel working in our favor. And one of the best parts about this whole section is that despite the fact that we're going to be able to do this, not financial guarantee, but that's the topic, that's the goal of the section, there's only one additional component to the business that we haven't touched yet that we're adding in. Other than that, it's just us rehearsing and mastering the components we've already learned and just raising our level of expertise so that we understand them at a different level. And I want to share a quick case study from our brand about basically what the road ahead can look like coming from our first month and some of the additional skills that we're going to be mixing in so you can have a 10,000 foot view of how this might start to piece together for yourself. So, as of right now, the business that we're familiar with is we drive traffic from Meta to Shopify, and then our products are fulfilled by Printify. And obviously, we have our whole big design component, but this is the basic flow of our customer journey right now. And the only additional component that we're adding into this is email marketing. And this is not akin to Meta. It's not a whole new traffic channel. This is essentially just how we are continuing the conversation with our customers. And it's one of the highest leverage points of this entire business model because every customer that we get from this is completely free because we already paid for them on Meta. So all of those purchases that we're getting there, the whole goal and how we really build the flywheel and send the snowball tumbling down the mountain, compounding in our favor, is when we turn those purchases from Meta into two, into three, into four, and on all those additional ones, we're not paying the advertising expense. And then when this really gets going, we start to just see Meta as a customer acquisition channel. And Klaviyo, our email software that we're going to be setting up in just a minute, is really the profit center of the business. And this is how we can get to the point that, like I mentioned way earlier in the course, that how great it feels to know that the next batch of 50 designs or 100 designs you're creating, it's not just going out to get tested behind ad spend. You can send a free email to your customers and have people instantly on your site, like literally within minutes. Obviously, this depends on the size of your list and how long you've been doing it, but that's what we're working up to. So, all in all, it's really exciting. And so the case study I wanted to look at with you is basically the journey of launching our brand, the 0 to 7 figure one that we've looked at a couple times. That, as you saw in, I think we just looked at the Q4 view, but it's about 400. Yeah, it did 443,000 in the last 30 days. And if you're curious, here's how that broke down in terms of, well, obviously the revenue, but the number of orders we had. We had a $45 average order value. And overall, that brought in $93,000 in profit. But now, quick disclaimer, this is using a estimate for cost of goods right here. So cost of goods, as we're about to dive into, is normally about 38 to 40%. So yeah, it's been about $73,000 in profit off of 431,000 in revenue in the past 30 days. And so we're going to be diving into like how we generate this email revenue, how we scale up the Facebook ads, how we keep the expenses low so that at the end of the day, the ultimate goal is driving this number up as large as possible. And the journey that it went on, we started in July of 23 at $31,000 in sales. And now, another disclaimer, this was Meg and I both working on the store together pretty much full time at the time. We were like making content, but this was just after I'd exited from a couple of brands and just decided to get right back into it. So this is we had time for both of us to work on this. But anyway, so first month we did 31,000. Then we started emails pretty quickly and brought in 3,000. And I want us to notice how quickly this starts to grow. And then we ran our P&L, which we're going to dive into later on. Like I said, email is the profit center. This is the true profit center. This is how we make sure that the sales we're generating are turning into dollars in our pocket. That's what this is all for. So on the first month, we had a 20% net profit margin. We're going to go through what all of these mean later on. But in August of 23, we scaled up to 53,000. Notice how it's following somewhat similar. Yeah, almost spot on. Similar growth trajectory to Sloth that we looked at. Yeah, like January. It really started picking up in like March. 7,000. Yeah, once it hits about 30K, which I think was, so it went from 16, then it hit 50, and then hit 100 something in June. So yeah, it went from 50 straight to 100, and yeah, that's about the same as what ours did. So then fast forwarding to September, we hit $100,000 in sales. So about 4 months after, so slightly faster than we did on Sloth. And then email revenue, which started out at just $3,000, it's now up to $13,000, which is awesome because, again, no marketing expense. That's basically 50% net profit. And that month we held steady at about 22% margin and brought in $22,000 in net profit. And mainly just sharing this to see like how it scales. And again, this is from our experience. Your results will vary. This is not typical. I just want to give all the disclaimers so that everybody's set up. Like having realistic expectations is one of the best tools to have. If you're willing to really lock in and just make designs nonstop, as we're going to talk about, then it's definitely not impossible. But if you're looking to go at this at a normal rate of speed without having the experience, part of the reason that we're able to move faster is that we have the muscle memory of like watching the numbers, but you're able to, but we weren't putting out like an insane amount of designs. And also, this was back before AI, so we were working with designers back before back in the Stone Ages. So we were working with designers. You can move so much faster than we could. Yeah. So Klaviyo scaled up to 18,000 by October, and notice how this is just slowly compounding. Our list is building more and more. And then November. Now this is Black Friday. You can see a little peak there, not a huge one, but we did $150,000 in sales and $28,000 in Klaviyo revenue. So we did $27,000 in net profit then. And then December, we capped out at 160,000, and Klaviyo did about the same, a little bit less. And our Klaviyo numbers here, we can see it right here. Yeah, Klaviyo. Yeah, look at the difference. That is crazy. I'm not even saying that like pat myself on the back. I'm actually doing the opposite. Like did not send enough emails at all. Now the list was nowhere near the same size as today, but a big part of this, I would say it's about 4 times the size that it was, but like the revenue is 6 or 7 times higher. So we could have done about $50,000 in sales if I had known the things that we're going to talk about coming up. So, anyways, last thing I want to share from this is to dispel the myth that January and February, like AKA Q1, are bad times to be selling. It's actually a great time if you are a direct to consumer paid advertiser because ad costs get a lot cheaper. So even in January, although it's certainly not what we did in December, still brought in $91,000 in sales, 99 in February, and brought in $8,000 of profit in January and 11 and a half. So $20,000 in profit in the first 2 months that are supposedly like the bad months to be selling. So now taking what we just covered, the high level, we touched on the finances, the emails, and gave a general sense of how things can ramp up. And the thing that I didn't really touch on because we mentioned it so much earlier is this whole time we were just ramping up the Facebook ad spend. We're going to dive into more specifics of exactly how we do that. But the way we were able to do that was we were just adding more designs. And that allowed us to start scaling because as we find new winners, the ad performance goes up. We're then able to bump the budget and then we then reinvest that into making more designs and the flywheel goes round and round. You start building emails. That's the whole premise of what we are building here. So hopefully with that 10,000 foot view, it helps solidify the direction we're going in. And trust me, you have come this far. You are so much closer than you might think to, I don't want to give anybody numbers in our head, but if you are willing to continue to put in the amount of effort that you already have just getting to this point, then honestly, the sky's the limit because that mindset can take you really far and it always ends up happening. Like you can have months where you're looking at $1,000 in sales, then 5,000, then 6,000, then maybe down to 5,000. And then suddenly, like maybe it's one new design, maybe it's a new concept clicks. When you just keep plugging away, it almost always happens where it's like just a rocket ship. Now, not a financial disclaimer, but just want to say from personal experience, it pays off when you least expect it to. So, at the very least, just keep sticking with it. And let's dive into the email training with Eric, where we are going to start building our list and getting that flywheel working in our favor. Let's do it.
Okay, let's talk about the email revenue from Sloth Hiking Club last year, which did about $125,000 in sales. And the best part of this is how simple it is to set up. I did it with an email pop up, and then we send our customers emails after they get hit with the pop up and what it looks like on the site. So here's the example of the pop-up setup for desktop version of my website. You can imagine the mobile version. If you just look at the left-hand side of the screen where my logo's at the top, that's exactly what it looks like on mobile. Now here's what's crazy. The cost to generate that $125,000 of email revenue was approximately $0. We spent $0 on ads for these customers. They already bought from us. We captured their email, their contact info, and then we activate them again. So here's the email marketing flow. It's the email pop up, which we capture their contact information, the automated flows, and some examples are the welcome and cart recovery, campaigns, which are regular touch points with our customers, all running on autopilot. And not only does this work for Sloth Hiking Club, email marketing is still one of the most effective forms of marketing when it comes to e commerce. And it's basically free. Our revenue increases as our email lists grow. So you're going to set up your pop up just like Sloth Hiking Club and start adding dozens of people to your email list. We're going to give you the exact templates we send from our brands, but let's start with building your email pop up. And we're going to be using Klaviyo. And there's a lot of different email tools out there like OmniSend, ActiveCampaign, MailChimp, Brevo, but we're going to be using Klaviyo because it's an industry standard email platform and it's free up to 250 subscribers, which makes it nice as we're just starting out our brands, and it integrates directly with Shopify and it's built specifically for e-commerce. And you can connect Klaviyo with Gmail for your print on demand brand. So we want to bookmark Klaviyo and then let's hop into the pop-up creation right now. Okay, so inside of Shopify, we're going to download Klaviyo, and we do so by going to apps and then typing in Klaviyo right here. And then we install Klaviyo like that. Super simple. And then we just click install when it pops up. Then we're going to add in all of our information about our brand. And then we're going to click get started. Then we're going to want to make sure that both of these are checked. Sync your Shopify subscribers to Klaviyo and sync your Klaviyo profiles to Shopify. Then we'll click continue. And then we want to confirm our sender information. You can either put your brand name or maybe your first name at your brand name. For example, Chris at Slice Club, or you can just leave it as Slice Club. Either one doesn't matter. And we definitely want to use a branded email address here as well. So it'll be Slice Club or support at sliceclub.co as an example. You don't want to use just a Gmail. We want to have it be professional. So make sure you have that professional domain for Klaviyo. So we want to do email and SMS and then click continue. And then we will go and activate our Klaviyo account from our email address. Now, for the plans, like I said, Klaviyo is free up to the first 250 active profiles, so we can just keep the current free plan, and then as we scale up, we can buy a new plan in Klaviyo. Now that Klaviyo is installed on our Shopify store, we can go to Audiences and click on Lists and Segments, and we want to click create a list, and we're going to name it Email, Pop-up, and then click Create List. And then we're going to go to Settings, and we're going to go to Consent, and we're going to make sure that we have single opt-in checked here. And then we're going to create another list, and we're going to call this one SMS pop-up, and then click Create List. And again, we're going to go to Settings, go to Consent, and click Single Opt-in, and then click Save. Okay, now we're going to go to website and sign up forms. And then we're going to browse templates and we're going to search email and SMS. And we're going to click the first one that pops up. We're going to name it email and SMS pop up. And then for email subscriber list, we're going to check that new list that we created and then also the new SMS list that we created as well. And then click create form. Then we're going to go to the teaser. We're going to click show before displaying form and after form is closed. And then also this is only for desktop. Then we want to go to targeting and behavior, and we want the show form based on rules, and we're going to turn off when visitor is exiting the page, and we're going to keep selected after time delay, and we want to change it to 8 seconds. We have found that to be the most optimal time. Then we're going to click on targeting. We're going to click don't show on certain URLs, and we're going to add /cart, and then also add /checkout because we don't want this pop-up coming up as someone's trying to check out. It's just a distraction, kills conversion rate. Now we're going to click on email opt-in, and we're going to change the offer text, and we're going to change it to unlock 15% off your order. Reduce the sizing a little bit here so it's on 2 lines. And just like that. Now we're going to get rid of the second layer of text here because we don't need it. And we're going to get rid of the email portion of the pop-up because it's a 2-step pop-up here. So we're going to go back to our pop-up draft and then head into the flow. And we're going to change that button so it is now show next step. And we're going to change the text to claim my discount. Then we're going to add a second button here so people can close the pop-up. And we're going to make it white and only be able to see the text color. So you can make the button white and then the text black like this. And then we're going to change the button text to no, thanks, I'd rather pay full price. And we want to make sure that that action is close the form for if they click no thanks, I'd rather pay full price. And then we also like to change the color of the discount that they're getting if they sign up so it pops and it's easier for the customer to read. Next, we're going to go to where it says email opt-in and we're going to click clone step. And then we're going to change it to email opt-in step 2 and then click clone step. Then we're going to make sure that the second step is selected and we're going to add the email input. And then we're going to label it email address. And then we're going to go to the SMS opt-in portion of it. And we're going to leave everything as is. All this stuff protects us for when we're sending text messages to our customers. And then lastly, we're going to change that image that is attached so it's more on brand, just like I did for Sloth Hiking Club. We're going to want to change both of the images for email opt-in and also the SMS opt-in portion of the pop-up. And the last thing you can do here as well is add your logo to the top of the pop-up, which you can do so right here. And in this example, since we're doing it for Slice Club, we added the logo for Slice Club, and it makes the pop-up look a little more branded. You're going to want to add your logo to each portion. It won't carry over for each step, so you're going to have to go in and add the logo and the images that you want for each step. Then lastly, on the success, we can just get rid of this little image right here. We don't need it. Again, you want to change the image for every single step. So for example, with the 3 guys here, you want to make it on brand for you. You You can add your logo here too. And we want to change this last portion of text to check your email inbox to receive your discount code. If you don't see it, be sure to check your spam folder. That way, our customers can find the discount code. And after that, it's all set up. We just click publish. But before we click publish, you'll have to go through and finish setting up Klaviyo. So you're going to go in and add all of your company information, and that's it. Okay, so now that we've set up the email pop up, now it's your turn to do it. And here's some pop up best practices. And what works best for us is keeping it simple, clear value proposition so the customer or potential customer knows exactly what they're getting in exchange for their email. And we recommend 15% off. We've tested all different percent offs for our brands and we have found that 15% works the best. And a single call to action so there's no multiple fields or complicated forms. So we want you to follow this video until you set up your email pop up. So, an important note here is to monitor your conversion rate when adding an email pop up. Some people see a slight dip initially, and that's completely normal. The long term value of adding a pop up to your website is 100% worth it. So, you're probably wondering, okay, what do we do with emails from here? Well, we wait until the email list starts to build up. And then we'll start sending flows and email campaigns to our customers. Now, what email should we send to these people? And that's a good question. And I have a little infographic here. I'm not going to go into complete detail about this infographic, but we have flows, content emails, and sales emails. Flows are pretty much a set it and forget it journey versus campaigns, which include content emails and sales emails, where content being educational and tips, customer stories, and community aspects that fall within your niche, and sales emails, where we're trying to get people to directly convert from our emails. But we're going to start with flows. We're setting up 6 flows, and the 6 flows are the welcome flow, which is the introduction to our brand, the abandoned cart flow to help recover lost sales, the abandoned checkout, which is when someone is checking out on our site, which is different from abandoned cart. Someone adds to cart, but when someone is checking out, they're going through the process of adding their payment information. So we want to capture those as well. The abandoned browse for anyone that looked at a product on our site, and the site abandonment is anyone that made it to our site. And then finally, the sunset flow, which is anyone that has become unengaged with our brand in the last 120 days. We want to make sure we try and re engage them to our brand. So the email flows, so we have the core flows, which is the welcome flow, abandoned cart, abandoned checkout, browse abandonment, site abandonment, and sunset flow. And then the advanced flows, you can set these up after you hit $10,000 in sales, which is the post purchase flow, birthday flow, VIP customer flow, and win-back flow, which are all available in the templates. Okay, so let's talk about sending email campaigns. And you're probably wondering, what is an email campaign? That's a good question. So, email campaigns are one off sends that provide brand info or advertising our products. And here's an example of a campaign I sent out for Sloth Hiking Club. And this was for my new arrivals, which was I added a bunch of new products to my site and I wanted to showcase them to my customers. So, I sent out an email showcasing all of the new products we added to the site. And you're probably wondering, well, how often should we send these campaign emails? And we recommend once per week in the beginning. Campaigns should be a mix of content emails and sales emails, and we want to send these in equal ratios. Example, 1 content and 1 sales email per week. And we want to start sending emails as soon as we have at least 20 subscribers on our email list. And the reason for this is that we don't want our list to go cold. As soon as we add someone to our email list, we want to be engaging with them to make sure that they open our emails. Let's talk about content emails first. And the whole point of a content email is to provide information on our brands, and they build trust without the objective of getting the customer to purchase. Okay, let's talk about sales emails now, which is an email that advertises products, collections, or with the express goal of getting a customer to purchase from us, and sometimes they can include a discount code as well. Now, with that being said, watch me create one right now. Okay, to set up our welcome series flow, we need to go to flows and then click build your own. And then we're going to search welcome series, which is actually right here for us. So we just click welcome series, and then we're going to select the trigger email pop-up because we just made that pop-up. So we want to have our customers go through this welcome series flow. And then we just click use template. And then we are going to get rid of the conditional split here, and we're going to delete it and then click yes path and then click delete path. And then we'll just have our email series flow here. We're going to change the time delay here to 1 day, turn off delay until a specific time of day. And then the first email we want to go out immediately, but for this email, we're going to go over to our email flows template, which you'll have access to, and we're going to copy the text from the first email here and then take it into the email marketing brain GPT. And then we're going to have it rewrite it for our brand. So we're going to type in rewrite this first welcome email for my brand. We're going to copy the information from the welcome flow template here, and we'll have that information so the GPT can rewrite it. And then we'll grab the URL from for our brand, so it has context about our brand. Paste it right here, and then we're going to give it more brand information. So the brand sells golf theme t-shirts to men and women uh, aged 35 to 65 primarily. These customers are fans of casual golf and have a thorough understanding of the game. And you can add more information about your brand here. The more information you add, the better, but I want the tone to be friendly and casual. And again, you can add more brand information here as well. And the best thing about this GPT is it's going to rewrite the email perfectly for you. And then you can just copy and paste this information back into Klaviyo to set up your welcome flow. So we're going to go over to the email and click edit. And we are going to change this to a text only email. So we're going to go to manage templates and click change template. And then we're going to go to the three dots in the top right and click change template and make it a text only email. Then all we're going to do is just copy and paste the information that we got from ChatGPT into the email. And we also want to add a personalization here. So we just click add personalization. And for the default, you can make it whatever you want, but we're just going to use friend here. It should be on brand. And make sure you click that save as default value for first name, and it adds in that personalization right there. And then we're just going to clean up this email a little bit to make it look nicer as it goes out to our potential customers. Now we have this welcome 15, but we don't have the discount yet. So we have to create that in Shopify. So we are going to go over to Shopify and create the discount code. We can also change the text here. Arial's a little bit easier to read, and we found better performance with Arial text, but we go into Shopify and then we go to discounts and we click create discount and we do amount off order. And then we type in the code welcome 15 and then change the percentage to 15% off. We want to scroll down to limit to one use per customer and also combine with shipping discounts. We don't want to set an end date because we're going to be using this ongoing. And then we just click save. Then we're going to click promote and get a shareable link and then copy that link, take it back into Klaviyo and set it right here with the extension shop 15% off. We actually only want one call to action for this email. So we're just going to delete that second shop 15% off and we can just have that one call to action. And then we're going to bold the discount as well, just in case the customers want to type it in themselves. And then we're going to click save. Make sure that our links are set up correctly. They should be blue. And then we're just going to change the subject line as well so it matches what ChatGPT told us to include in the email. So we're going to change the subject line and then update the name of the email and we'll call it discount. Make sure we have our sender email address set up correctly as well, and then we can click done. And then we're going to want to make this live so it actually goes out to our customers. And then we're just going to do the same exact thing. We're just going to follow the templates, copy the information, take it back into Chat GPT to update each email in the flow. So we're going to paste that second template email in there, make sure that we grab all the brand information from before, paste that in there, and we want to change it from first to second email. This email is a personalized email from the founder, and then we click OK. And this is so easy. It just rewrites the email for us. We literally don't have to do anything except copying, pasting, and moving things around a little bit. So we're going to copy this over to the second email. And then we're going to edit this email. Again, we're going to make it a text only email for simplicity. If you're more interested in setting up image emails, we talk about it a lot inside the accelerator. But for now, we're just going to change this to text only. And then we're just going to copy and paste the information for the second email here. Then we're going to just edit it slightly to make it look nice so it's not all blocky text. Give some spacing in between each line, just like that. We're going to change it to Arial. Again, it's a little bit easier to read. And that's pretty much it. We just want to check to make sure there's no errors in the email, and then we just click save. Then we're going to change the subject line again so it fits, and then we'll change it to personalized founder message. And then we just click done. And then we make it live. And then we're going to do this for each part of the welcome flow. So we're going to clone this part out. Again, move it down below, clone out the second email so we can have it for the third email, move that down below. And we want to just follow the exact setup inside the templates. So we'll change this to email number 3, get rid of the copy of, and then change it to what the next message should be in the email flow. So we'll go back to the template, and then we'll just keep working down. We'll go to email number 3. If you don't have any social proof yet, you can just change it to making it about your products, different features, how great your t-shirts are. So you don't have to worry about, having reviews yet. If you have reviews, you can definitely use that. And then we just keep working down, copying and pasting and building out the flow for each part. And there's 6 total emails in the welcome flow series. Again, you want to make sure that they're live, changing each one to live. And that's how you set up the welcome flow. Now, when it comes to abandoned cart, we need to set up integrations. So we'll set up the integration here. We'll click Shopify. And then we want to make sure that we turn these on. So we want to make sure that add viewed product tracking to my site is turned on and all the additional tracking features. So we want to click that, click turn on, and then it'll prompt us to Shopify. And then in the top left-hand corner, we want to make sure that's checked, that's turned on, and click save. And we want to click get started here. Make sure that behavioral events is checked. It's super important. Click save. And then update integration. And then we want to make sure that this is turned green and both of these add viewed products and track behavioral events are turned on. This is important for the rest of our flows. And I'll see you in the next flow setup. All right, we're gonna be setting up our abandoned checkout and abandoned cart flows here. So we're gonna go to click create flow. Then we're gonna type in abandoned and we're going to select abandoned checkout reminder standard email and SMS. So we're gonna click that. Then we're gonna click use template. And we're going to get rid of the conditional split and get rid of the yes path, and just delete the path. And remember, this is for checkout. So we want to make sure that trigger is when someone checkout started. And for some reason, Klaviyo has it as abandoned cart, but this is actually our abandoned checkout flow. So make sure we change the name so we remember that this is the checkout flow. And we can see that from the trigger up top. Now we're going to go back to the templates and go to the abandoned cart / checkout flow. and we're going to copy and paste the first email here right into our GPT. And again, we're going to give the GPT all of our brand information and tell it to rewrite it so it makes sense for our brand. And again, just make sure that we change this to abandon checkout so it doesn't say the other thing. And then we're going to click OK. And it's writing it for us right now. And this is perfect. It makes it so easy for us to set up all these flows so we don't have to write each one individually, but we're going to copy that into Klaviyo here. So we're going to click edit, go to the email and copy and paste that information in, paste with formatting. Then we're going to duplicate this here. Then we're going to duplicate it here, pull this down underneath the back to my cart button. Then we're going to edit the text and get rid of all of this information that we don't need before the button because it'll be underneath the button. And again, we can change the colors and text of these buttons as well. So we're going to change it to return to cart. Again, if you haven't changed the colors to be on brand, you can always do so for each button. We're going to edit this text for everything that needs to go beneath the button. Lastly, we're going to drag this underneath the dynamic product, get rid of this last button here, and edit this text. So it's just the sign off here. And then we're going to add our, dynamic product here as well, which will do, it'll do it automatically because since it's dynamic, it'll just pull from wherever the customer was shopping. And that's pretty much it. Again, it'll pull automatically here. And we're going to just delete all this extra information down here below. We don't need it for this email. So we're going to delete these sections and it's good to go. So we can just click exit and we're going to change the subject line so it makes sense for our brand. And then we're going to just add some preview text here as well. Again, this isn't the biggest thing in the world. You can always just add a little sentence here. And we always want to make sure that we preview and check the links to make sure that they all work. Then we're just going to click done. And then again, we want to make sure that we set it to live so it actually sends out. And then we want to just change the time delays for each one so it matches the templates that we've provided. So we're going to change this to 1 hour, click save. And then again, this one says send 24 hours after number one. So we need to change the time delay to 1 day. Click save. And again, for this email, we're just going to copy and paste this information into the GPT and change it up. We just have to remember what it says on the templates, whether it's text only or we're including images. So make sure to double check that in the template as well. So we're going to clone this. We're doing a text email instead. Clone this out. And then we can just delete that second email here. And we're just going to make it live. Then we're going to click create flow. We're going to do a ban cart reminder with the Shopify trigger. Super important when someone added to cart, which is different from our checkout one. So we just want to make sure our triggers are on point here. And this will only happen once you start getting events through your Shopify store. So if you haven't had any adds to cart yet, then you're not going to be able to set this up. But once you have the events happening, then you can set this up for your brand. As you can see at the bottom, we've not received any recent add to carts events for this setup, but we can go back here and copy and paste for abandoned cart. They're very similar, the checkout and abandoned cart, but just slight difference in nuances when it comes to the copy. And that's pretty much it. Same process over and over again. We're just changing text. We can set this up once we have events. So we're going to set up our browse and site abandonment flows, but first I want to talk about the image and brand templates for our brand. So if you want to use templates, you go to content and then go to image and brand and go to defaults. And this will be the template for all of our emails. And we can just go and edit it. Make sure you want to add your logo in here. And we typically use a white background for all of our emails. We haven't seen a lot of success changing the colors, but completely up to you if you want to change it. And if you want to change the heading colors to be more on brand, you can do so as well. Again, we typically use like black and white normally for our emails, but the buttons are normally the color you want to change to make on brand. But you can go ahead and change all of these in the template by going to each section and making the colors that fit your brand. You want to just save that, and then we are going to go to flows and we're going to create the flow. So we're going to start with browse abandonment, and we're going to go to browse abandonment standard, click that, and then we're going to click use template. And we want the trigger to be when someone viewed product, which is set up here correctly. And then we're going to go to the flows and find browse abandonment for email number 1. We're just going to copy the text here, make sure we're using the templates here, super important. Then we're going to go over to the email GPT. Again, this will be linked so you have it. And again, we want to just make sure that we add our brand information, also have the GPT rewrite the email. So we're going to say rewrite this first email in my browse abandonment flow for my brand. And then, you're going to use your brand here, but you can just copy and paste the URL into the GPT so it knows exactly what to look for. And then give it some more brand information, explaining exactly who your brand is for. Then we just copy and paste that in and it will rewrite that first email so it exactly fits for your brand. Super easy, super simple. Then we just copy this information over back into Klaviyo and we go into the email and we're going to click edit. Then we're just going to copy and paste that information right into the first text line. And we can click paste with formatting and then delete all the old information, and we can also delete this information right here and just make it more general instead of having that dynamic product. You want to just make sure you go through and proofread these as well, so it makes sense for the email. Also make sure that we are deleting this, but we're using that dynamic product. And the best part of this is depending on the product that the person viewed, it's going to show up right in this email, which is great for us because it'll bring them right back to what they were looking at. So then we can exit this and come back here and change the subject line so it makes sense for the email. We can just use the same one from the GPT. And then preview text isn't that big of a deal, but we'll just add in here, come back and buy before it's too late. Then we click done. And then we want to set this live so it actually goes out. And we also want to go back and double check the send time. So for the first email, we want to send 1 hour after browse abandon. So we want to make sure that we change the time delay for that to 1 hour. And then we click save. So that's set up. And then we just clone this for the second email, move it down to the bottom. Then we're also going to change this to 1 day, like it says in the templates. Then we want to just clone this email as well. And then we're going to drag this email down below. And then we're going to just change the name of this so we know the email flow name. So browse abandonment email number 2. And then we're going to go back to the templates and we're just going to copy this second email. And it's okay if you don't have reviews yet. You can just talk about the product specs and how great your products are. But this is just a template. You can easily just take it back into the GPT and have it change the information. If you want product specs instead, if you don't have 20 reviews yet, perfectly fine. Again, we're just doing the same exact process. We're just copying and pasting it into the GPT, and then that's it. For site abandonment, we're going to click the Browse Abandonment Standard and we're going to clone it here. And we're going to change the name to Site Abandonment. Click Continue. And then we're going to change the trigger. This is super important. We're going to change it to Active on Site and then clone flow. And then for site abandonment, we're going to click in and then again, check the trigger to make sure that it's active on site. And we're doing the same exact process here. We're just going back to the flows, site abandonment flow, and then we're going to copy this template here, copy it, take it back into the email marketing brain GPT. We're going to paste it in here. And then again, we want to make sure that we add our brand information at the top so it knows exactly how it's going to write this email. And we tell it rewrite this for first email in my site abandonment flow for my brand. And then we're just going to copy and paste that same brand information we gave it earlier. And then we just hit OK. And it rewrites the email for us super easy. It's so nice to have. And once it's done writing, we're going to copy all of this information back into the email. Then we're going to edit this email. Go again, bottom right, click edit. And we're going to change this information in the email. I'm going to paste with formatting. And again, we want to double check all this information. And it tells us that we want to set up a bestsellers product grid. So we're going to do that right now. And how we're going to do that is by clicking columns, adding the columns in. We're going to do 3 columns, all equal, and then add the columns. Then we're going to add the product to each column. And we can just delete those extra images at the bottom. You can also delete this too because it's for dynamic. And again, we're going to be using static products here. So just get rid of that. And then we're going to copy and paste the top text and put it below the products at the bottom. I'm going to delete all this information here for the first part of the email, introducing the products. And then we'll go ahead and fix the rest at the end of this, but we can also get rid of the shop now button and also get rid of this you might also like but text. And then we're going to click static in product and then click add products. And then you're going to add your best sellers here. So for this example, we're just adding products, but you're going to want to add your best sellers here. And then in layout, we're going to change it to stack on mobile. And then we can move these products down so they look nice and then delete the content here. And there we go. It's all centered and aligned. Then we add another static product. Again, you want to pick your best sellers, add the product in, and then fix the layout. So we want to align it center and vertically. And then for the last one, same thing, add a product. Again, your best sellers, add the product, and then orient text vertically and centered so it makes sense on mobile. And now we can change the button sizes as well. So we just go down to the button text and we can just make it slightly smaller. And there we go. So the button looks nice. Change it to 12 for this one as well. And then change it for 12, change it to 12 for the last one as well. And then lastly, we want to edit this text and get rid of all that information that is going below the products so it makes sense in the email. And that looks pretty good. Last thing we want to do is make sure that we hyperlink that shop bestseller. So we're going to copy over it and then add a link in the top right hand corner. And depending on where you send your traffic to is what link you're going to add here. We always send the traffic to the collection page of our products. So we're going to copy and paste that URL in, add it right here and click apply. And then it makes that clickable. And that's it. So then we can just hit exit. And we want to change the subject line again so it makes sense. So copy it from the email GPT. And then we're going to paste it right where the subject line goes. That looks good. And then lastly, we want to change the preview text again. Again, this isn't the biggest deal if you don't add any preview text, but you can always add a little bit. So we're going to add shop golf tees, and that's fine. Then we click done. And we want to change the name so we know what it is, site abandonment email number 1. Click save. And then again, we want to follow the times for it. So we use the templates and we go back and we change this to 3 hours and click save. And then we want to make sure we make it live. And then again, we're going to go back to the templates and it says send 24 hours after number 1. So we're going to change this to wait 1 day, which is already set up for us, which is really nice. And then for the email number 2, it's text only. So we have to change the template for this email. But first, we're going to copy the text and then bring it back into the email GPT and do that whole process again. But to change the template, we just click the 3 dots over here and click change template. And then we click the 3 dots and click change template here. And then we click text only because this is a text only email. And then we're just going to copy and paste that information from the GPT and then clean this up so it looks nice. So it's not all just on one line. And then there we go. Again, going to want to add that link to your bestsellers or your collection page there to that line where it says bestsellers. And then we're going to make it live as well. And that's it. That's how to set up the site abandonment flow. Again, you just want to change the names of the emails as well so they make sense, like we did for the first one, site abandonment, and then site